time kills deals. The longer it takes, the more likely is that deal can blow up. The flip side of that is time can create opportunity, and speed creates opportunity. So if I can go fast, and sometimes, again, getting to seller motivations, time is more valuable than money. And that's where you can really take advantage of our bridge loan investor success strategy to move quickly when you meet a seller where time is more valuable than money. So
welcome to The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Each week, we investigate themes of leadership, entrepreneurship, and mindset with some of the greatest minds in real estate. And now, the data scientist of real estate, George Roberts.
Welcome back, investors. With all of the market turmoil that we've seen since the middle of 2022, I know that many of you have questions about the ever-changing lending landscape. And today you'll have the opportunity to have all those questions answered. This is a very exciting show you'll want to listen to the very end, because we're going to cover the exciting world of bridge lending and how it opens up literally a world of extraordinarily profitable deals. You learn how bankers look at deals, which will make you a more savvy and successful investor, and also how to ensure that your investor-lender relationship remains a match made in heaven. Now, Malcolm Turner is a founder of Castle Commercial Capital, a nationwide direct commercial lender. He's one of the pillars of the Detroit commercial real estate scene and author of Financing the Unbankable Deal. Welcome to the show, Malcolm.
thanks, guys.
All right. So I want to know, first of all, and I think our listeners want to know, what exactly is an unbankable deal and why are these deals so important?
Well, the unbankable deal is the deal that a bank won't touch, either because the property doesn't meet their guidelines, the borrower doesn't meet their guidelines, the financials aren't up to snuff for whatever reason, and it might be like the quality of the paperwork. You know, sometimes people will buy a property and the previous owner didn't run it professionally and everything's on the back of a napkin, and it's like we can't underwrite with this kind of poor data. We could have occupancy issues, could be an issue of condition, of course, you know, that could also bump it out of being bankable. And then in the chapter of my book about the 4 deal killers, the 4th one is the issue that the bank could have problems that's totally independent of you or your deal. You know, they could be going through a merger. You know, I closed a deal a couple of months ago where my personal bank going through a merger and a borrower there got denied. They were working like 3 months, 4 months trying to close a loan. And they were literally like 10 days before they were supposed to close. And the bank said, yeah, we're not doing that. And he was like, what? After all this time? And what they did wasn't so much, let me take a step back. They didn't say you're denied. What they said was, we need to order a whole new appraisal. And we need to order some additional He's like, wait a minute, the appraisal I got is certified. It hits the number that we need to hit. Why do I have to spend more money, thousands of dollars more? And they're like, well, you know, we got these new guidelines now and it's not passing muster, so we need to do it again. And essentially, sometimes what banks will do, rather than tell you no directly, they'll just string things along and keep asking for more and more stuff, even things that they already have, and to the point where you're like, I'm going to walk away. So they didn't technically you know, drop you. You just said, you know what, after 10, 30, $40,000 in due diligence, I just can't play with you guys no more. I'm out. And they were like, okay, if you don't want to, you know, you don't want to play, but they were never going to do the deal. So someone at my bank knew me and said to this borrower, kind of pulled his, you know, his coattails on the side, says, hey, you ought to call this guy Malcolm Turner. I think you can get your deal done. And we did. And
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, those banks don't always do that, but that's great how that one worked out. And I think it's important for people to realize that it's not all personal. It's not all about you, your credit. It's not about the deal. Did you have everything buttoned up? Sometimes, literally, it is just the lender. You get some new vice president in, or maybe you had some losses in hotels last year, and we're
That's
done
right.
with hospitality.
That's right. Or they had a loss in your area,
Yeah.
right? And so they're like, okay, before we could do another multifamily in Battle Creek,
Mhm.
right? We have to dispose of the property we had to foreclose on 3 months ago that we're still carrying on the books, that kind of thing. And think about what's going on in banking recently, right?
Mhm.
With Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic, banks are pulling back because they know that there's going to be some new regulations coming down the pipe, and they're going to have to strengthen their balance sheets. They can't afford to take on less risky deals. They're going to have to pass more stringent stress tests. So, that's just the environment that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. So investors out there, this is why it's very important to know more than one banker. And you definitely want to have those extensions programmed into that purchase and sale agreement, because yes, I'm sure that's not the only investor that's ever been dropped at the last minute by a lender.
Oh, and it won't be the last either. But
And it won't be in
but,
the future.
but even beyond that, we talk about in the book is there are non-bank alternative lenders out there,
Mhm.
and the world of private money is huge. It's
Mhm.
it's multi-billions and billions of dollars of deals that are getting done. Even like, in your favorite market, multifamily. I went to a meetup about 3 weeks ago, and the person speaking was a banker for a local credit union. And someone asked about, well, if I'm a small investor and I'm new, what's my best options? And they were like, well, when you're starting out, you should go with a community credit union or a community bank. And then when you get bigger, then you go with a big bank. And that was it. And I was sitting there and I'm going, well, wait a minute, where's the rest? You know, but
Right.
no disrespect to them, but that was their background. They grew up in the big banking world. And then in this part of their career, they transitioned to a smaller community-based bank. So they only know those two. And so from their perspective, and what they said to the group was, these are your two options. But in actuality, if you're doing, let's say you had a $2 million multifamily deal, you should be looking at Freddie Mac, small balance. Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae have great programs for multifamily. They'll do a 30-year amortization, fixed rate loan, assumable, non-recourse. Why would I do that with a bank if I can qualify for a Freddie Mac loan? It makes, it makes no sense. Now, in our perspective, when we're talking to a client, we're looking at the deal. What does the deal dictate, right? If we can go, because when do you not do, in our strategy of bridge loan investor success strategy, what we call BLISS, when do you use BLISS? When the deal is not bankable, but you still want to get it done. And walking away and not making that profit that you have foreseen because you have vision that the average person doesn't have, you're not willing to walk away from that. There's got to be a way to get it done. Well, that's where BLISS comes in. But when is BLISS not appropriate? Well, you would never use BLISS when it's a bankable deal.
Exactly. When you've got that stabilized deal, just go for that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, go for that small balance loan. It makes a lot of sense. And even for these non-bankable deals, and part of this is for the new people out there. Hey, if you can get seller financing, you can do value add and you don't have to get that bridge loan. But the reason we're sitting down and talking today is that most of the time you can't do that. Most of the time, seller financing isn't available, even for the smaller deals. And it's very rarely available for the bigger deals. So like you said, when you have that vision and you have that deal, and it costs you more to walk away from the deal than it does to just pay a little extra and get that bridge loan, hey, it makes sense.
Right. And you take into consideration, George, the motivation of the seller, right? Usually if a seller is selling a property at a really great price, they want all their money. They're not going to sell at some tremendous discount to the market and then wait years to get paid off. So, but that again, that's the opportunity of bridge where someone can come in and say, hey, I'll close in 3 weeks, but I want a 20% discount to value. And they'll go, well, holy crap, I just went through a situation with the last buyer for 3-4 months and they never closed, you know, and then in their mind, that seller was already in Florida. They were already in Colorado. You know what I'm saying? Wherever they were going to go to, you know, they had that island vacation booked. And so when it didn't close, they're like, oh my God, now what? So you come along at the right moment because sellers are beings. They're emotional beings. And when they're ticked and they're upset,
Oh yeah.
you know, that's when there's opportunity there. So yeah, you may come in with a bridge. Yeah, the interest rate would be a little bit higher, but you don't have to live there. You know, like one of the deals I detailed, one of the case studies in my book, you know, the seller got out in 3 weeks and they recognized it was an emotional decision, but it was after they signed. So the buyer, their first buyer walked away the day before closing,
Right.
right? My buyer contacted the listing agent and said, hey, did that thing close? He goes, no, it didn't. Matter of fact, they just walked away and the sellers are furious. He's like, oh, okay, great. Here, put my offer back in, you know, which was 20% discounted to the list price, and I'll close in 3 weeks. He's like, Malcolm, we can close in 3 weeks, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, and I'll close in 3 weeks. And we did, and they took it. But about 5 days later, after they took his offer, the agent called back and said, are you sure you're gonna close in 3 weeks? And the guy's like, yeah, why? He's like, because the seller realized they made an emotional decision and there will be no extensions. So if you guys don't close it, I'm just telling you right now, there's no extensions. They're not doing, you know, you got to make it happen.
Right. I love that story because I think some of the best deals are the ones where you know you made a good deal when the seller wants to back out and they're doing everything they can to make sure you dotted your I's and cross your T's. So that's how you know you really negotiated something super. Yeah, that deal fatigue, that's huge.
Yes.
And another use of these bridge loans, as you mentioned, it's not just for the deals with hair on them. Sometimes it's, hey, I can close fast.
Yes. And as we know in our business, George, right? Time kills deals. The longer it takes, the more likely is that deal can blow up. The flip side of that is time can create opportunity. And speed creates opportunity. So if I can go fast, and sometimes, again, getting to seller motivations, time is more valuable than money. And that's where you can really take advantage of our bridge loan investor success strategy to move quickly when you meet a seller where time is more valuable than money. Sometimes people have to close by the end of the year. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if it goes from December 31st to January 2nd, you can't close in that time frame, all their sense of urgency leaves. You know, someone who's in a balloon payment.
Right.
And I got a situation I'm dealing with, a seller who's getting 2 multifamily properties from the same seller, and the guy's got a balloon payment, and he knows the seller is not going to grant him an extension. The seller's watching him he's had this deal on land contract, and he's put about $400,000 into it, changed the rent rolls, upgraded the property, you know, put a new roof on, you know, did some significant improvements. And the seller's sitting back going, oh man, this is nice. This is nice. Keep going, keep going. And he's like, yeah, and if you don't close, I'm taking the property. There is no tomorrow, right? So my guy was like, you know, I could go Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but man, this guy, if anything goes wrong with traditional financing, if there's any delay, I'm screwed. And I've
Yeah, and
already,
a situation like that, I mean, you can get out of that bridge very quickly, right?
oh,
I mean, you might
absolutely.
three months down the road, you could be in that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and you're sitting pretty, but because you took the steps to do this today.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I got a client, we're doing an SBA loan on a building, but because of COVID, she had a balloon payment. And as you may know, most bank loans and credit union loans, those traditional loans, have balloon payments. Even some of the Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae products will have a balloon payment. Okay. And she's absolutely positive to get out of it. Her balloon was up in January. She was working with a local credit union in Southfield, Michigan, who will remain unnamed. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll do it. And the lender that she had gave her an extension and everything. And then the credit union said, nah, we're not going to do it. She was like, what? So now here she is, right? 3 months, 4 months past her balloon date, and they're not doing it. So now the first lender's like, well, okay, I guess we're going to have to take back the property. And she's like, no. I got a lot of equity in this thing. And so we're doing a bridge loan. She could have gone SBA, but the credit union didn't want to do that. They recommended her against it. But now she's in danger of losing the property. So, we're going to close, pay off the other lender, and I'm already going through the underwriting on the SBA loan. And for us, we typically close because you can use SBA to buy commercial real estate and refinance commercial real estate, just FYI. And we're going to, probably close typically 60 days, 70 days, as our typical time frame for SBA 7A loans. So we're going to go through that process, and she only has a 3-month minimum on the bridge loan. So we're going to take that prepay at closing. And so before the first payments due, she's going to come in, pay them off, and go to her lower rate 25-year amortization, SBA loan.
Exactly. Perfect use of the bridge. You've already got that exit strategy in place. Now, I really want to get deep into your BLISS strategy, but I also want to ask you about the backstory to the book. So tell us how you came to write the book.
Couple things. One, I'd always wanted to write a book, and I knew writing a book would sort of separate us from our competition, to be frank. We do a lot with Bridge, because a lot of times I'm not the first lender people call. They'll go to, like, the situation with the credit union deal that went south. Or all of a sudden she's desperate and she's calling everybody she knows. And a residential mortgage broker said, I can't help you. I don't do commercial, but I heard about this guy in Southfield that can help you. And when I look back and I say, okay, we're doing a lot of bridge stuff, what's out there in the marketplace? I went to Amazon, I typed in commercial bridge loans, nothing.
Yeah.
Not a single book dedicated to that topic. So I was like, holy moly, there's a lot of value we could bring to the marketplace. So that was one of the impetus to say, if there's a need, we absolutely have to fill it. As business people, as entrepreneurs, we solve problems. That's how we make money. So I knew the marketplace needed it. And also sometimes people's experience with a bridge loan is whatever they heard someone else go through, which may not necessarily be accurate. Because people don't always tell, like, all their dirty laundry about why they had to get that bridge loan.
Right.
So someone says, oh man, this guy's paying, XYZ interest, and he's paying all these fees. And it's like, yeah, but the guy didn't have tax returns. He didn't have this. He didn't have this. He's not telling all that other stuff. And so, and then people need to know, like, when you come to things like non-recourse, you can have non-recourse with Bridge. And a lot of borrowers don't know that. So in the book, we got into, here's the opportunities that are out there in the marketplace that you could take advantage of because of bridge loan financing. Here's the ins and outs of making it happen. And here's how to use it to, 2x, 3x, 5x your commercial real estate portfolio.
Right. So yeah, there are many advantages. Like you mentioned, you can be very quick to close. You can have non-recourse with Bridge, and you can do those more profitable deals. Again, if you're not getting seller financing, how are you going to do a reposition? You're going to need a bridge. And it's all a matter of what you're looking for. There's nothing wrong with going out and saying, hey, I want to get a stabilized property. I want to know how much money is coming in. But if you want to make those killer deals, that's not going to go with an agency loan.
Right. And you have what we call bridge to agency category within commercial bridge loans, because there's a lot of situations where the property will just fall out of the guidelines. So as an example, with the Freddie Mac small balance program, you need 90% occupancy for 90 days. Okay. Sometimes you may have just a couple tenants bump you out
Yeah.
of that 90%. Well, 90's 90, sorry. Well, what if my balloons do? Now what am I going to do? Okay, you're going to do a bridge so you don't lose the property, right? And then in the meantime, as soon as you get to 90% occupancy for that 90-day benchmark, okay, now you go right to Freddie Mac.
All right. So then let's get deeper into your BLISS strategy. So this is the bridge loan investor success strategy. So you really lay it out. Anybody can read your book, whether you're experienced or even a beginner, and fully understand the process. So let's talk about what bankers are looking for. You list the 6 C's. So you got cash flow, collateral, character, cash on hand, credits, and capability. I think we could probably talk about all of those, and actually one of these you already mentioned. I wanted to ask you about surprises. So tell us how lenders hate to be surprised by bad news in the applicant's credit or character, right? Like you got that conviction 5 years ago, or maybe you had a bankruptcy 4.5 years ago. Tell us why it's not a good idea to just let the lender find that out.
Oh, you break trust. The whole system is built on trust. We all assume that what we write down and we sign our name to is accurate. And so I always tell my clients, listen, tell me everything. I want to see all the dirty laundry. If the dog crapped in the corner, I need to know that, right? The worst possible position to put me into is they don't disclose it. They don't tell me about it. I can't prep them. We go into underwriting as if that doesn't exist. And then you let the underwriter through due diligence walk in and step right in that pile of dog crap. And then the guy's like, wait a minute, you guys didn't tell us about this. And then Malcolm, did you know? No, I didn't know. Well, deal's dead. I'm not going to lie. So if I did know, I'm going to say, of course I knew. And I told you guys on such and such of the loan summary, this is what we were walking into, remember? Oh, yeah, that's right. This is why we were bringing this other thing to make up for that. So like credit is someone who's had a credit issue, that's hair on the deal, right? In other words, a defect that's going to exist in the underwriting. You can have one piece of hair.
Right.
You can't have two, right?
You got to send it back to the kitchen.
You send it back to the kitchen, exactly. I use that analogy in the book, right? You order the salad, there's one piece of hair, you send it back. If it comes back and there's another one, you're done. You're out the restaurant, right? But you can make up for that, right? Just like a good restaurant will do. Say, oh, listen, we apologize for that. Matter of fact, we're going to give you dessert on us. We're going to cover your drinks on us, or we're going to cover your meal. And then someone goes, oh, I got, this ribeye is free. Okay. Now they're not thinking about the hair in the salad. They're thinking, I got a free ribeye. So there has to be some other positive to make up for that negative, but you got to let your lender know, because if I know that, especially me as a commercial loan lender and broker, okay, so we do deals in-house, but then if a deal doesn't fit within my credit box, I can then broker it out to another source. Well, I know certain sources are more tolerant of tax issues and credit issues and occupancy issues than other lenders. And so if I know that the hair, let's say you got someone who's brand new, and they're trying to buy their first commercial property and no one wants to do the deal, well, I know who I can take it to who will be okay with them being new, as long as we get a top-notch property manager in place. And that property manager's resume can make up for the white space on theirs. But I have to know that up front, right?
Right. Or for example, number 4 is cash on hand. So having reserves, that can also cover up a multitude of sins. So you have something else is going wrong, like maybe the cash flow isn't quite right, or maybe your occupancy is just, on the edge. A lot of lenders will actually demand that. So something good, anything else? What other compensating factors are important?
Well, capability, that last C in the 6 C's of credit that we talk about in the book, capability is key. Which we quantify capability, meaning, are you capable of executing the plan that you put in front of us? So if it's a value add, you think, oh, I'm going to turn, these units over and rehab, and I'm going to go from $800 a month to $1,200 a month. Well, are you capable of actually putting that in place? Yes, I am, because I've done it before. Here's my track record.
Capability is also very narrowly defined too. Like, let's say that I have several multifamily deals, and now I say, hey, this is a great hotel deal, Malcolm. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Right. Have you done hotels before?
Yeah, exactly. That's the first question you're going to ask me. It doesn't matter how capable I am in multifamily or how many times I've turned the units quickly. Hey, it's the same thing. We're just going to turn the units here, right? But very
And I
different from the
get
lender's
that
perspective.
all the time. Oh, I've done lots of real estate. Okay. Have you done the specific thing you're asking us to give you money for? Because if you've done, 30 houses and you've never done multifamily, that doesn't count. If you've done multifamily and you've never done hotels or retail or industrial, it doesn't count, right? So we're going to have to find, or at least in my situation, I'm going to have to place that loan with an underwriting team with the guidelines allow for a first-time investor in that regard. That's one of the differences, by the way, you talk about multifamily, George, between Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Freddie Mac is a lot more lenient when it comes to experience and you being a new investor than Fannie Mae's like, nope. You got 3, 4 of those?
Yeah, they can afford to be very picky, right? They've got the first access to capital, they got the best rates, amortization, everything. And you're not getting that loan unless you're squeaky clean.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where you bring in a partner, right?
Right. And also then it's about the business plan, like you mentioned. I mean, if you have all this experience with Class C or with Class B and you want to go vice versa, you haven't really executed that business plan before. Maybe you've never done an operations play or you've never done a heavy value add.
Right.
All that plays in.
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. And I have taken deals with a bridge loan product because specifically of capability, where that's their first multifamily ever. They have zero experience, and it's like, man, that's going to be tough going conventional, but I have bridge lenders that will let that happen. And it's a whole different thing when you're buying something brand new versus refinancing something as a veteran owner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, now one of the things I'd like to do is help people think like a lender. I think that's one of the ways that you could really bridge the gap.